a funny story. Funny in that I was, as a dean, seeing the rise of helicopter parenting 20 years ago, 25 years ago on a college campus. And I could tell parents clearly, you need to stop, don't do this, it's their life, please stop, it'll be fine. Like, let them do their own work, let them solve their own, let them try. And so I would give speeches about it, and I was very proud of myself for knowing this is right. And then one day when I came home for dinner with my own kids, Sawyer was 10 and Avery was 8, and I leaned over Sawyer's plate and just began cutting his meat. And that's when I realized, oh goodness, I'm going to be one of those parents of an 18-year-old who can't let go. I'm going to be micromanaging them in college. Why? Because I'm still cutting the meat for a 10-year-old, and 10 is too old to be having someone else cut your food unless you have a significant disability. And so I realized that night, I'm going to be that parent that I'm critiquing right now. In the future, I will be her. And I realized the parents of my students aren't trying to harm them. They're not trying to be obnoxious. They're just trying to help, just like I'm helping by cutting his food. We've just all forgotten, oh, my job isn't to help forever. My job is to teach so that they can do for themselves, because one day I won't be here. That's good parenting. So I became a whole lot more compassionate once I realized I'm complicit in the problem I'm critiquing. And you'll see tonight, or parents will see tonight, I tell stories on myself. I know there's research about the harm of helicopter parenting. I can cite you research, but I know that stories move people and are memorable. If I can tell a story tonight about my own stumbles as a parent that makes a parent in the Blake community feel like, oh my gosh, I am doing a similar thing with mine, then change and growth are possible.
Yeah, and I know you wrote your book about helicopter parenting first, but then now you've been exploring more on the other side of things about students. So I'm just curious how you came up with this kind of two-sided approach to the problem.
Yeah, it was never about the parents, okay? I'm not a parenting expert. I got labeled a parenting expert. I wrote How to Raise an Adult. Why? Out of a deep respect for young people having the right to craft their own journey. I was seeing a type of parenting encroaching on that right. So I wrote a book talking about the harm of that way of being, not intending to be a parenting expert, but in furtherance of rooting for kids ultimately to be free from that. Okay, so it was always about the kids. That book did very well. The parenting book became a New York Times bestseller. All of a sudden that gave me new opportunity. My publisher said, now we want you to write a sequel for young adults. And I was like, I will, thank you. But in the meantime, I've also been working on this deeply personal book, my memoir on being Black and biracial in white spaces, a very vulnerable book. That became my second book. So I got a 2-book deal, one for the memoir and then the sequel, as they call it. Yeah.
I was actually wondering about that memoir, and I guess how did the idea for writing the book begin to take shape, and what were kind of the unique challenges in writing it, considering it's different from your other 2 books, which is kind of
Thank you. Yeah. Growing up, I was told that my writing was not strong. I got that feedback, and I think the people who gave me that feedback were right. This wasn't people failing to see me. This was people actually really clearly seeing me. I'm Gen X, which means I had a childhood largely unattended, largely untested in terms of special needs. I think I have a learning disability that's never been diagnosed, and in my generation that's quite common. What I'm trying to tell you is I had a hard time reading as a kid. I couldn't concentrate on a paragraph. I kept rereading the same lines. And so I couldn't get through the book assigned in my English class. I was very smart, I knew that, but something wasn't working. So I would come to English class and listen really well to what my classmates were saying about the book. That's how I learned what mattered, what the themes were, what the motif was, what the protagonist wanted. Like, I listened to what my classmates said and what the teacher commented on and praised in those times when I couldn't get through the book myself. If you're not a voracious reader, it's hard to be a good writer because they go hand in hand. You get better at your own writing by doing more reading, and you discover your own voice ultimately by having read the voices of so many others. So what I'm trying to tell you is this is a very improbable journey for me to decide at 44, I'm 55 now, at 44 I said, I care about this helicopter parent problem so much. I give speeches on it, but I think I can, there's a book length piece of content to offer. How am I going to be the person who can write a book worth reading? I went back to school. I went back to California College of the Arts, got an MFA in writing to develop the skill and the confidence. Like, I am a writer. We can only say that to ourselves. You don't have when you're a lawyer, you take a test, they say you're a lawyer. With being a writer or an artist more broadly, you have to claim it. I wasn't ready to claim it. I went and found a community that would teach and nourish me and mentor me so that I would develop the guts to say, I'm a writer, I'm going to try to write this book. Okay. I went there to write that book. I was also writing poetry at the time. Okay. And in my poetry classes, deeply painful experiences were emerging, like the N-word being written on my locker in senior year of high school. Okay. It was the poetry which was bubbling up out of the depths of me that was showing me, you got stuff on your mind. The movement we call Black Lives Matter was emerging into our consciousness as a nation with the killing of Trayvon Martin in 2012. That's when I went to grad school. So this is in the news. This 17-year-old kid gets gunned down. I'm a mom at the time of a 13-year-old multiracial black presenting son. And I'm like, how do I protect my kid in this America where this will happen and this killer will go? So I'm writing poetry about that. And I'm showing up in bars and poetry, slams, and I'm doing not my parenting content, but like my race content. I couldn't deny that these issues were mattering to me, and I was writing well about them. So I wrote the parenting book on the side, got the book deal, which was great, slowed down my MFA. It was supposed to be 2 years. I got the book deal in year 2, went part-time, wrote the book, went on tour, became successful, came back to grad school, and my master's thesis is my memoir, Real American. So I actually wrote 2 books in grad school. It's a long story, but I wanted you to have a bit of the journey because I got a D in communications in college. Okay? Do you see the irony of that? I am let me brag on I'm a New York Times bestselling author with a TED Talk that's been viewed more than 7 million times. And I got a D freshman year in college in Communications 1, the easy class. You find your way forward. I am doing I am living the life of my dreams. I feel valid, valued, useful. I feel like I'm contributing. I never could have said when I was your age, oh, law, higher ed, writing, politics. And here I am, delighted to have had the chance to grow through all of these experiences.
If there's anything you'd like to add or that you, didn't get a chance to talk about,
I wouldn't want to come across as critical of parents. That's not what it is. I mean, yes, I can be highly critical, but I'm coming from a place of we all love our children fiercely, and we've just gotten it a little wrong when it comes to the micromanagement. We think, oh, this is my little perfect thing that I'm going to enter into the most important, like my little dog, I'm going to put in the most important dog show and hope they win first prize. And so I am going to train them, and I am going to make them do this, and I am going to make sure, right? And my point is, like, your kid is not a dog. It's going to win a race and you're going to take home the trophy. Your kid is a human given to you by God or the universe or however you believe humans get here. And your job is to feed them, shelter them, teach them hard work and good character, and get out of their way. Yeah, I forgot to add an unconditional love. Feed, shelter, unconditional love, hard work, good character, and get out of their way.
Yeah.
And the last thing, we parents are afraid of letting go. So I will end tonight with parents, if this is hard for you, if you need to micromanage your kid's life in order to feel like you have a life, you need therapy. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you can get a life and have other hobbies besides your kid, then your kid can get a life too.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.